Prabhu, we are live.
Okay. हरे कृष्ण। तो प्रभु जी कहते महाप्रभुंकर जो गुणर महिमा कहते महाप्रभु प्रभु जहाँकर आज मेमोरियल प्रोग्राम अच्छे आज हाँ तो माताजी जन्मदिन रे महाप्रभु भगवान धाम को शीघ्र गले बहुत किसी मत महाप्रभु बारे रे मात्र समय सीमित होगा जो मैं ऑफरिंग मु महिमा महाप्रभुंकर महिमा मु कहि पारुनी जस्ट किसी फोटो मु देखा चाहूँ कि देखंतु ये जो फोटो रे महाप्रभु अछंती महाप्रभु आ मु यात्रा रे थिलु तापरे मते धरिकी जाइथिले गिरिराज महाराजंक साथे भेट होइथिला से समय आ ये होची ये जो जेरी स्लैविंग ऑफिस जोड़े की पार्किंग अच्छी तो महाप्रभु ये जो बहुत ही सुंदर यात्रा तांको संगरे मो जीवन संगरे और तांको संगरे मु तांको भूली पारिनी धन्यवाद हरे कृष्ण श्रीमान द्वारिकाधीश प्रभु दौरान कृष्णचंद्र प्रभु एवं कहे तापर विशाखा प्रिय माता जी कहे कृष्णचंद्र प्रभु एवं आसुचंती कहवा को श्रीमान महाप्रभु प्रभु कि मोर कृष्ण भावनामृत संघरे मते भक्ति आने को तांकर बहुत गोटे महत्व अभिनयता थिला महाप्रभु स्टार्टिंग रे छोट छोट प्रोग्राम करौथले आउ आउ आम माने जपा बहुत अल्प करुथले 1985 1985 रे मते मन पड़ुची कि आके पचारिले कि आपण जप करूछंती मु कहले कि हाँ मु किछि करूछि महाप्रभु कहले ठीक अछि आ गोटे माळ अधिका कर तो पूर्ण प्रज्ञ प्रभु भी थिले से समय रे जहाँ को आम घर को धरिक आसले तांके तो 2 जण 3 जण 4 जण एमि आसुतले हारमोनियम साथे रे प्रोग्राम करथले कीर्तन करथले जो शुक्रवार प्रोग्राम जो तांके जो करे थिले कि तांके कहथले कि आसंतु फोन करके कहथले डाकुथले आसंतु तो किछि समय मु कहथले मु मीटिंग रे अछि आसी पारेनी मात्र तथापि तांके फोन करी डाकुथले मते तो मते खुशी कोडा लागुथला कि तांको घरे एते प्रभुपादंकर पुस्तक थिला जे भी आसले तांको बांटुथले तो प्रभुपादंकर भी बहुत किसी टेप रेकॉर्डिंग किछि बही सब गुड़ा संभाल के रखिदे तापर जेबे दीक्षार समय आसिला कि मते दीक्षा नेबा को प्रोत्साहन देले इस्कन रे तापर से समय कीर्तनानंद महाराज थिले तो तो से समय में महाराज इनिशिएशन महाराज दीक्षा नेले। तो से समय में महाप्रभु कहले किसी नहीं से किसी कष्ट नहीं केवल जपा कर। हाँ तो मु कहली मु जपा मु चा पिउछि कफ पिउछि ना ठीक है किसी असुविधा नहीं जति जा खराब अभ्यास थी सेरा सब छाड़ दियो। तो से समय राधा प्रिया माता जी तांकर किछि संतान हेबार समय थिला से समय तथापि महाप्रभु महाप्रभु कहले कि नहीं नहीं किछि समय मते दियो। तो से समय कहले तो से समय महाप्रभु कहले कि गुरु को अधिका जाने ना आपण को अधिका जाने। तो से समय सब डाउट क्लियर हो गए। प्रत्येक समय देखुଥିଲେ कि उत्साह दौଥିଲେ प्रोत्साहन दौଥିଲେ कहते कि अरे अरे तुमको तुमको तुमर कैपेसिटी जाना नहीं। हाँ गुरु को कैपेसिटी जाना तांकर। हाँ तो बहुत ही उत्साह पूर्वक प्रभु बांधव मिशन रे सेवा करुଥିଲେ ଆଉ ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ସେବା ଭାବ ଯୋଉ ଥିଲା ସେଟା ବହୁତ ହି ପ୍ରବଳ ଥିଲା। ବହୁତ ଜୀବନରେ ବହୁତ ହି କଷ୍ଟରେ ରହୁଥିଲେ ମାତ୍ର ଉତ୍ସାହ ପୂର୍ବକ ରହୁଥିଲେ ଆଉ ସଫଳତା ବି ପ୍ରାପ୍ତ କରୁଥିଲେ। कि ତାଙ୍କୁ ସମସ୍ତ ଭକ୍ତ ମାନେ ପ୍ରେମ କରୁଥିଲେ। ହଁ ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ଗୁଣ ଥିଲା କି ତାଙ୍କର ନିଜ ବାରରେ ତାଙ୍କେ ଜୋକ୍ ବି କରିବାକୁ ଆଲାଉ କରୁଥିଲେ। ହଁ ତ ଏମିତି କିଛି ନାହିଁ ତାଙ୍କେ ନିଜକୁ ବଡ ମାନୁଥିଲେ। ହଁ ତ ସହଦେବ ପ୍ରଭୁକୁ ତାଙ୍କେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ସମୟ ବେଳେ ସହଦେବ ଦାସ ହିଁ କହୁଥିଲେ। ବାଲିକା ମାତାଜୀ ଗୋଟେ ଥର କହୁଥିଲେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ସମୟରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଏଇଟା ହିଁ ଚିନ୍ତା ଥିଲା ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ କୃଷ୍ଣ ଭାବନାମୃତକୁ ବାଣ୍ଟିବାଟା। ଯୋଉ ସମୟରେ ତାଙ୍କେ ଶରୀର ଛାଡିଦେଲେ ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟା ବେଳେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ମୋ ସନ୍ତାନ ସାଥିରେ ମୋ ଝିଅ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ କଥା ହଉଥିଲି ହଁ ତ ତାଙ୍କେ ହରିନାମ କରିକି ଯାଉଥିଲେ ଖାର ଷ୍ଟେସନ। ତାଙ୍କେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର ପ୍ରଚାର କରୁଥିଲେ ସେ ସମୟରେ ଏମିତି ଲାଗୁଥିଲା କି ତାଙ୍କର ଶବ୍ଦ ଯାକ ହୃଦୟକୁ ଭେଦିକି ଯାଉଛି। କାନ୍ଦ ଲସନ ଛାଡି ଦିଅ କାନ୍ଦ ଲସନ ଖାନ ଭଗବାନଙ୍କର ଜପ କର। ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ଇଚ୍ଛା ଯୋଉ ଥିଲା ଦୁସରା ଭକ୍ତ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ହେଲ୍ପ କରିବାଟା ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବାଟା ବହୁତ ହି ଉତ୍ସାହ ଥିଲା। ହଁ ଯୋଉ ସମୟରେ ବି ତାଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବାକୁ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରୁଥିଲେ ପ୍ରଥମ ତାଙ୍କ ହାତ ଉପରୁ ଉଚାରିବେ। ମାତ୍ର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ କ୍ଲାସ ରେ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରୁଥିଲେ। ତାଙ୍କର ନାଁ ତ ଇସ୍କନଙ୍କର ଇତିହାସରେ ଲେଖାଗଲା। ତ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ 3ଟା ବାଣ ଥିଲା। ଗୋଟେ ଥିଲା ଶୁକ୍ରବାର ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ। ଇଏ କେବଳ ଗୋଟେ ସାଧାରଣ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ନାହିଁ ମାତ୍ର ସେଇ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ରୁ ଏତେ ଗୁଡା ଲୋକ ଲିଡର ବନିଲେ ଏତେ ଗୁଡା ଲୋକ ଆଉ ହଜାର ହଜାର ଲୋକକୁ ଆଣିଲେ ଭକ୍ତିରେ। ହୁଁ। ପୁରା ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ପୃଥିବୀ ଭରରୁ ମେସେଜ ଆସୁଛି କି ମୁଁ ଖାର ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ କୁ ଯାଇଥିଲି, ଖାର ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ କରିଥିଲି। दूसरा है राधा गोपीनाथଙ୍କ विग्रह, राधा गोप कि तांके बहुत ही से समय के केवल अल्प समय राधा गोपीनाथ विग्रहଙ୍କର विग्रह को सिलेक्ट करके बलद गाड़ी रे आनिथिले। तो जोड़ा कि एटा विश्वास भी करी हबनी कि देखन एते बहुत बड़ा योगदान। तो जोड़ा भी कष्ट हैला, जोड़ा भी किसी कठिनाई आसिला विग्रह आनिबारे सब किछि पार करके तांके आनिले। आउ जो कोर्ट रे जो केस भी लड़ुଥିଲେ से कोर्ट केस भी बहुत लंबा लंबा चालुଥିଲା। किछि किछि केस तो 5 वर्ष भी चल। महाप्रभुଙ୍କର बुद्धि, महाप्रभुଙ୍କର बुद्धि श्रीनाथ जी प्रभुଙ୍କ साथରେ ए मंदिर को आउ थरे इस्कन को रिटर्न आनिबाटा 5 वर्ष लड़िले, सुप्रीम कोर्ट पर्यंत जाई लड़िले। केवल गोटे जिनस है कि 4:30 जो मंगल आरती थिला सेटा न है कि 5टा मंगल आरती। ये जो किछि लोक जो थिले ये बहुत ही शक्तिशाली थिले, मात्र को महाप्रभुଙ୍କର जो साहाଯ୍य थिला से जो केवल तांकर इच्छा थिला कि मु कौन करि पारि भगवान पय, और एते नम्र भी थिले कि समस्त को प्रेम करुथिले, चाहे से पढ़ागी लोक हो, चाहे से अनपढ़ा हो, चाहे से को स्तर रे भी रहो, समस्त संगे प्रेम करथिले। जी भी भगवान प्रति इच्छा करथिले तांका संगे प्रेम करथिले। हाँ, तो आज ए दिन रे कि आमे प्रार्थना करि परिबा, आमे हरे कृष्ण। आपण बहुत ही सुंदर पूर्वक कहले। तो प्रत्येक समय आम पाखे समय बहुत अल्प रोचे, तारी किसी आश्चर्यजनक नहीं। कि किछि कहले किछि भक्त कहि पाइलेनी। कहबे समस्ते अपना अपना समय रे कृपा करी कहन। हरे कृष्ण। आज डेट रे डिवोटी केयर बारे रे एते किछि चर्चा चालुचे। मात्र को महाप्रभुଙ୍କର ସମୟରେ गोटे भक्त जी डिवोटी केयर ଥିଲେ, भक्त मानकर केयर करिवा किछि सिस्टम न थाए कि तांके जस्ट स्वाभाविक पूर्व रे कहे कहि देले। महाराज गोटे समय रे खार सेंटर रे क्लास पर प्रश्न पचारले कि जो लोक जाक कि जेतिक भी एठे बसिचंती कि जो 250 लोग जो बसचंती किए खार प्रोग्राम अटेंड करछन, ताइरो 80% लोक हाथ उपरक कले। कि देख कि एइडा ही गोटे सफलता कि देख महाप्रभुଙ୍କର कि देखंतु आज डेट रे कि आमे अछंती कृष्ण भक्ति रे कि देख कि महाप्रभुଙ୍କର जो योगदान महाप्रभुଙ୍କର जो सेवा ता जो आमे अछन। तो से समय आमे जब प्रोग्राम को जाउथलु आमे हमको भी भय थिला कि देखतु कि हमरो माँ बापा माने कौन कहबे प्रोग्राम को गले मात्र महाप्रभु कौन कहले हाँ ताके कहला पर हमको भी बिल्कुल भय लागिलानी कि मु मोर पापा को कहली कि देखो कि महाप्रभु हमको प्रोग्राम को धरिकी जाउथले तापर घर को आनिक आउथरे छाड़ुथले पिकअप करथले कॉलेज कॉलेज रू धरिकी जाउथले तापर आउथरे आनिक छाड़ुथले कि हमको लागुथला कि हमको किछि किछि आश्रय अछि हमको आ महाप्रभु जो स्तर रे प्रचार करथले कि डायरेक्ट प्रहार करथले हाँ तो महाप्रभु कहउथले कि क्यारे कॉलेज रे आपन को किए चिड़ौची कहंतु कि तुम तो महाप्रभु कॉलेज को आसिके भी किए किए आपन को परेशान करछि तांको संगे भी कथा है कि हाँ पूरा ध्यान रखुथले रसराज प्रभु
stands immediately and say something, like a tired warrior, as they said. Similar like Bhishma, when you remember the Bhishma Pitama of our temple, the senior most personality, the one who has sheltered and seen so many ups and downs of so many people come and go and still have been over there. So, I mean, being such a ageless person, it's very, the departure of Mahaprabhu, it's almost like the end of an era of our lives. The era of Radha Gopinath temple, one particular part which started there, and surely for many of our lives, and we strongly believe that today, if we are still in Krishna consciousness, trying to do some service, it is simply because of the love and prayers and the blessings of Vaishnavas like Mahaprabhu, whose hand is always on our head. Whenever I would meet him, he would just, his hands were very heavy. He would just put on my head and he said, "Kaisi hai Bandariya? How are you?" And I would say, "Mahaprabhu, I am very happy and I am doing fantastic by your mercy." And as he said, he was like a lion among men, and we have lost a father, a godfather. And thank you, Mahaprabhu, for whatever you have done.
Hare Krishna. So now, Sachidanand Prabhu, kindly please come over for offering. Director Vrinda Manjari Mataji, please be ready.
Hare Krishna. On hearing so many devotees, so many memories have really, come up. One instance before I, sort of read something, because I thought it will be very hard to recollect and try to summarize so many memories which we have, is in the early days, we all know Mahaprabhuji was very keen on preaching. And that time, Radha Giriraj Prabhu and myself, we used to go to colleges. So one day he had caught hold of me and he wanted to go to a certain college. And then I went to Mahaprabhuji's house. And then, in his normal, he used to be very well dressed. So we were driving. So the moment we crossed the house, we reached Bandra, he broke the traffic signal. So immediately we got caught over there. And he stopped the car because the police guy signaled to stop the car. But he said, "Don't worry, I'm just coming in a minute." So he just picked up one or two books. He went. He just gave the cop, those one or two books, and within a minute he was back. So I said, "Mahaprabhuji, what happened?" He said, "Kuch nahi, ye to hota rehta hai." So we all know that
Mahaprabhuji
to sort of fall asleep. We heard about that.
Drive kala bele soi paduthile. ତେଣୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଥରେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିଛୁ ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରକାର ଦୁର୍ଘଟଣା ହବାର ଥିଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ ବଞ୍ଚି ଯାଇଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ରେଡ୍ ଲାଇଟ୍ ହଉଥିଲା ଶୋଇ ପଡୁଥିଲେ, ଗ୍ରୀନ୍ ହେଲେ ଆମେ କହୁଥିଲୁ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ଚାଲନ୍ତୁ ଚାଲନ୍ତୁ। ତେବେ ମୁଁ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି କହିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, ଯେପରିକି ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ଜଣେ ଅଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିତ୍ୱ। ପରିବାର ହିସାବରେ ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ 4 ବର୍ଷ ବେଳେ ଦେଖିଛି। ତେବେ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ମୋର ସଙ୍ଗ 54 ବର୍ଷ ହେଲା। ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଛୁଆ ପିଲା ଥିଲୁ। ଆଉ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁଙ୍କର କି ପ୍ରକାର ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେଇଛି କହି ହବ ନା, ସେ ଏତେ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେଇଛି। ସେ ଗୋଟେ ବଢିଆ କାର ଚଲଉଥିଲେ, एकदम ଡ୍ୟାସିଂ ଲୁକ୍ ଥିଲା। ଆଉ ଏବେ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ କିପରି ପୁରା ଡିଟରମାଇନ୍ଡ ପ୍ରିଚର ହେଇଛନ୍ତି, ପ୍ରଚାରକ ହେଇଛନ୍ତି। କି ପ୍ରକାର ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ତାଙ୍କର ହେଇଛନ୍ତି। ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କ କ୍ଲାସ ଶୁଣିଛନ୍ତି, ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି। ଆଉ କେତେ ପ୍ରକାର ପ୍ରଚାର ସେ କରିଛନ୍ତି, କେତେ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରଚାର କରିଛନ୍ତି। କେତେ ଭକ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ସେ କୃଷ୍ଣ ଚେତନା ସହିତ ଜଡ଼ିତ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ତେବେ ତାଙ୍କର ବିବିଧ ଗୁଣରେ ସେ ଭର୍ତ୍ତି ଥିଲେ। ସେ ଗୋଟିଏ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିତ୍ୱ ଭିତରେ ଅନେକ ଗୁଣ ତାଙ୍କର ଥିଲା।
महाप्रभुଙ୍କର चरित्र रे आपण देखिबे बहुत प्रकार पर्सनालिटी बा व्यक्तित्व थिला। महाप्रभु जने विनम्र, निहाती निस्वार्थपर एवं बड़ा बुद्धिमान, केबे केबे बहुत मधुरवाची, आउ केबे केबे विभिन्न प्रकार ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट होतले, केबे केबे एग्रेसिव हो जाउतले, केबे सब बेले पई से तरतर रहउतले, तरबर रहउतले। तेणु सिचुएशन अनुसार महाप्रभुଙ୍କର व्यक्तित्व परिवर्तन होउतला। महाप्रभुଙ୍କର गोटिए चरित्र को काढिबा बड़ा कष्ट, कारण महाप्रभुଙ୍କର विभिन्न प्रकार चरित्र रे बा विभिन्न प्रकार नेचर तांकर थिला। तेबे महाप्रभु केबे केबे एकदम वज्र भलिया कठोर होउतले, आउ केबे केबे बड़ा नम्र सहित व्यवहार करउतले। तेबे आमे फ्रैंकली कहया गले महाप्रभुଙ୍କର अनेक प्रकार व्यक्तित्व आमे देखिचंती, बा आमे निश्चित भाव देखिचंती से महाप्रभु तांकर विभिन्न प्रकार व्यक्तित्व को अलगा लोकमानक सहित से प्रतिपादित करचंती। महाप्रभु कृष्ण चैतन्य को आसला पर तांकर मुख्य लक्ष्य थिला प्रचार करिया पई। महाप्रभु प्रचार पई साम दाम दम दत भेद सब प्रकार जिनस यूज करथले, व्यवहार करथले। से जानिथिले जे किपरि गोटे व्यक्ति को कृष्ण भक्ति को आकर्षित कर जाय परिबो, ताको भक्ति को आनिया पई कोन कर जाय परिबो से ता पई प्रस्तुत होतले। प्रीचिंग समय रे बा प्रचार समय रे तांकर ड्रेसिंग सेंस बहुत तगड़ा थिला, बड़ा सुंदर भाव से ड्रेसिंग होतले। प्रथम हमरा प्रारंभ रु सफारी सूट पिंतले, तापर से धोती कुर्ता जैकेट को पळे आसले। केबे केबे जदी भलो किछि उत्सव आसीची टाई जैकेट मध्ये पिंदुतले, सुंदर भाव रे सजे होतले। ड्रेसिंग सेंस तांकर बहुत बढ़िया थिला, रॉयल ड्रेसिंग सेंस थिला तांकर। प्रचार पई सब बेल पई से तैयार थिले। तबे प्रारंभिक समय जो फ्राइडे प्रोग्राम होतला, शुक्रवार दिन का प्रोग्राम, गोटे छोट डायरी तांग बार थिला। से डायरी केते ना थिला के जानी, से समस्त को ना रे फोन करथिले प्रोग्राम पई। जदि आपण तांको प्रोग्राम मिस करचंती, ता पर दिन निश्चित भाव ऑफिस रे आपन को फोन जीवो, क्या हुआ, कोन हला, काई के आसलोनी। तांको बाहर किछि बाहाना चलु नथिला। तांको फोन पाखरे भी गोटे प्रकार अद्भुत प्रकार डायलॉग सब थिला। तांकर 24 घंटा रे 8 घंटा काम पई, 8 घंटा परिवार पई एवं 8 घंटा तुमर भविष्यत पई, अर्थ कृष्ण भक्ति पई। तबे महाप्रभु जदि कोनोसी बहाना किए दउथला, महाप्रभु तांको से डायलॉग लगौथले एवं समस्त कोले सॉरी महाप्रभु जी, आमे नेक्स्ट प्रोग्राम में निश्चय आसीबु। तांको घरे बर्थडे पार्टी रे, एयरपोर्ट रे, बा केबे केबे से निजे घर को डाकी दउथले भक्त मानक सदैव। तो महाप्रभु जी घर को आस्तने केही मना कर परिबे नै, बा केबे केबे से फोन रे प्रचार करथले। देबे केबे केबे से फोन को उठेई कथा होतले एवं भगवान के विषय कहतले, बा कोन से लेक्चर से सुनिचंती, बा किछि सुनिचंती से कोठू, से विषय से निश्चय कथा होतले। एवं जदि से भाबुतले ए कथा बहुत गुरुत्वपूर्ण, से फोन करके कथा कहतले लोक मानकू। तांको घर, तांकर कार, तांकर ऑफिस, बैंक जो डीलिंग अच्छी ये सब जिन से प्रोफिशिएंस सहित करुले तेबे से बहुत थर कहती जेहेतु जन वकिल अनेक व्यक्तिंकर अनेक भक्तंकर अनेक व्यक्ति से प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करथुले से सब बेले भक्त मान को सहायता करने बहुत भल पाउथले लोक माने तांको सहित बड़ा सुरक्षित अनुभव करथुले कारण तांको जदि किछि कोनोसी सीक्रेट कथा बा कॉन्फिडेंशियल कथा कुहा जाए लोक माने पूरा एकदम सिक्योर फील करथुले सुरक्षित फील करथुले जे से तांको बारे कहले कोनोसी असुविधा नै आ से सब बेले ट्रांसपेरेंट थिले तांकर कोनोसी विकल्प मोटिवेशन नथिला जेतबेले से प्रश्न पचारुथिले से अन्य मानक पई प्रश्न पचारुथिले अन्य मान जो माने हॉल रे थिबे बा लेक्चर सुनुथिबे तांको पई पचारुथिले आ मु निश्चित भाव कहि परिबी से प्रश्न गुडी आम पई थिला तेबे मु भाबुतली महाप्रभु प्रभु जो नाम ता महाप्रभु बोली केते बढ़िया नांती महाप्रभु को ना आर रे स्टार्ट होतला किंतु महाप्रभु महाराज ताको महाप्रभु ना देथिले तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु को नाम अनुसार चैतन्य महाप्रभु नाम अनुसार महाराज देथिले महाराज को जो ना देथिले केते सुंदर नाम थे किछि वर्ष परे महाराज को पुओ विषय रे कथा कहउछन कि बहुत गुडे जॉब परिवर्तन करुथिले महाप्रभु बड़ चिंतित थिले जे गिरी कौन करछ बोले मु मधे चेक करूथली तेरे किछ समय परे जेतबेले गिरी जहा करूची महाप्रभुकर पो जहा करूची से निश्चित हेले तापर से आश्वस्त हेले तथापि लास्ट समय पर्यंत सब बड़े विव्रत होतले कि गिरी कौन करिवो कौन करूची कौन नहीं ये प्रकार व्यस्त तांकर थिला महाप्रभु कमांडिंग पर्सनल थे आ महाप्रभुकर वॉइस तांकर जो स्वर सब बेले मन रहिबो महाप्रभु को 3 जनरेशन 4 जनरेशन भक्तवान देखिचंती और समस्त महाप्रभु मन रखिबे कारण तांकर निर्भीक डेडिकेटेड एवं जो उच्च आवाज रे कथावार्ता समस्त को भल लागे एवं समस्त मन रखिबे कोठी जो जानतु पुलिस स्टेशन हो कोठी जानतु सब बेले निर्भीक थिले तो जदि कौनसी जगह रे किछि भूल हेछि बा कोन हेछि महाप्रभु निश्चित भाव सॉल्यूशन आनि आसबे एरा जणा थिला समस्त ते आम पई से बाप बाप परी पिता परी आम पई बहुत बड़ लॉस तेबे आमे प्रार्थना करछु जे जोठी आपण थांतु हमको आशीर्वाद दियंतु हमको दिग्दर्शन दियंतु हरे कृष्णा श्रीमान महाप्रभु जी की जय आम मानकर आपण आम बना पई ग्रांडफादर पढ़िथिले आपनकर महानता अनेक भक्त कहउछन्ती आमे सुनिछु एते लोक माने समस्त सुन कहउछन्ती आमे सुनुछु किंतु आम पई बलदेव एवं मो पई आमे केवल आपण आम दाउजी थिले हाउ आमे आपनक पई बंदर और बंदरिया थिलु माकड़ माकड़ी तेणु आमको सी जमी बैग उठेला बेला उठाऊले कारण आम शब्द करूँ तेणु आमको माकड़ भाया सी बैग रे पकई दौले तेणु आम डरुलु बहुत प्रारंभ तब समय अनुसार आम सहित बढ़िया आदान प्रदान करूँ मन में रेस्पेक्ट बा सम्मान अच्छी कि बेसी आमर आम आम सहित बंधुत्व एवं सहित बंधुत्व करूँ आम हृदय आम जानी महाप्रभु को कहीं ना कही पारना तेबे आम बापा को सी ना कही पारे सारा दुनिया महाप्रभु ना कही पारनी किंतु आम बापा को सी महाप्रभु ना कहे ना आम के मजा करूँ जिते से भागवतम क्लास दौले से अधा सेंटेंस कहते आ पूरा करुले के प्रभुपाद जी चैतन्य महाप्रभु जी ए प्रकार कहते से आम पाक आसते जड़े कंजरवेटिव मारवाड़ी व्यक्ति परी किंतु मु कहि पारे माने निश्चित भाव कहि पारि जे जड़े निहाती भद्र व्यक्ति थिले एवं उन्नत महाप्रभु मोर बिगेस्ट सपोर्ट बहुत बड़ा सपोर्ट थे महाप्रभु केवल दुईट प्रश्न मत पचारि तुम्हें जप केतले सरुची आ जब तुम लेट हो मत कह केतले आसबि तुमको पिकअप करने बलदेव एवं मु आमे तांकर जेमती संदेश बाही थिलु मेसेंजर थिलु सी आमको आम से शुणु मोबाइल कौन है मूवीज कौन है कौन कौन सब लेटेस्ट न्यूज है सब कहूँ तेज आम कहूँ कौन देखिया दरकार कौन भल आ सी आमको इनोसेंटली सब बिलीव करते विश्वास करते आमे केबे केबे जानी शुणी बढ़ई चढ़ी कहूँ देखा से कि प्रकार व्यवहार बा कि प्रकार मनोभाव रखुंट सी आमको विश्वास करते बहुत दृढ़ भाव विश्वास करते भल पाते 20-21 वर्ष गोटे झील को दाऊजी प्रचार करने को आरंभ कले तेबे महाप्रभु कहले या गोटे बलिका बकरा मिलगला दाऊजी बहुत बढ़िया से प्रचार करते महाप्रभु बड़ा सुंदर भाव में कहले जे मु कुछ भूल कहली कि मु जहाँ शुणी एवं भावुची ता कहली तेबे हुए तो समय अनुसार मते परिवर्तन होगा पड़ो किंतु मु ए कथा शुणिला परे महाप्रभुंकर जो जेन्युइन रियलनेस को बुझी पारी महाप्रभु केबे एग्जाजरेट करुनथिले महाप्रभु एक्चुअली जहाँ जानिथिले तांका भीतर जहाँ बाहर थिला सेया से समस्त भल पाते से विषय जहाँ कहले आनंद लगे थे बलदेव आ मजा करूँ तुम्हें एत जिन फ्री दौच बोधे तुम घरे तुम सिंधुक गोटे कुकुड़ा अच्छी जी कि सुना अंडा दौच आम सब देखा चाहूँ सी कहीं एत दे पारुथिले कारण तांकर निजर आवश्यकता बहुत कम थिला से जानि सुनि निज आवश्यकता के रखि नथिले केते लोकंकर असुविधा रे आमे तांको के दुखर निश्चय दउछंती किंतु किछि समय परे आमे मध्य जीवन में आगु बढ़ुछंती किंतु जहाँ को गोटे विशेष लोक जहाँ को आमे भलो भाबर जानिछु आमे आमे खाली मेसेज देला हबनी आम मन रे हमर भावना रे आमे निहाती भाबरे भाबा उचित भाबुछे समय अनुसार आमे आम जीवन रे पुनी आगु बढ़ी जाऊ आउ ए प्रकार विशेष शिक्षा जो आमे शिखु ए समय रे सेतोड़ा हम भूली जाऊ तन दाऊजी आमे आम जीवन रे चेष्टा करबु जे आपन लेसन जहाँ आपन शिखैछन ताकू शिक्षा कर मन रखिबु एवं आपनकर शिक्षा करथिबा रास्ता रे आमे चलिबा चेष्टा करिबु आपन हम हृदय निश्चित भाव रे रहिबे आ आपन जो प्रकार उदाहरण सृष्टि करछन जो चरित्र सृष्टि करछन जो प्रकार ऑनेस्टी सृष्टि करछन ताकू आमे बंचिया को चेष्टा करिबु एवं आम जीवन को आम उत्सर्ग करिया को प्रभुपादन सेवा रे चेष्टा करिबु बहुत धन्यवाद बहुत धन्यवाद माता जी हरे कृष्ण महाप्रभु को आम अति कृतज्ञता सहित मन पकाउछु से आम गोटे बापा परी प्रतिष्ठित व्यक्ति थिले से आम श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु जी के आमर पिता तांकर साथी मध्य थिले मु से दी जन को सब बेले साथी रहिबा देखिबा चाहूतली हमर माँ मैथिली प्रिया माता जी जहाँ मन पकांती जे प्रथम मीटिंग रे श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु आ महाप्रभु प्रभु केमिति जुहू मंदिर प्रथम मिसी थिले 1986 रे जेतबेले सेठी गोटे बहुत बड़ आईनगत समस्या चली थिला एवं श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु एवं महाप्रभु प्रभु एथिरे जोग देइथिले ए दी जण निज प्रति बड़ अंतरंग थिले महाप्रभु जी आम घर को बहुत समय आसीबे एवं आम बापा सहित आम सहित घंटा घंटा समय विभिन्न विषय डिस्कशन करथुले से समय रे बहुत कम प्रतिष्ठित व्यक्ति परिवार थिले जो माने इस्कन को एते सपोर्ट करथुले तेणु श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु एवं महाप्रभु प्रभु एमान भीतर जने निहाती दुर्लभ लोक थिले जो माने एते एप्रिसिएशन एवं भल पाउथिले इस्कन को एवं गिरिराज महाराज तेणु गिरिराज महाराज तांको दी जन भितरे सूत्र थिले जहां को ए दी जन बहुत भल पाउथिले तेबे समय अनुसार ए दी जन सांग लेवल बढ़िले जेमति कि सहदेव प्रभु राधा कृष्ण प्रभु एमान सब बढ़िया लगिले तेणु याकू ए प्रसिद्ध 5 जन हे गले फेमस पाई प्रसिद्ध 5 जन व्यक्तित्व खार सेंटर पालिका माता जी एवं राधाकृष्ण प्रभु एस्टाब्लिश करथिले ए सेंटर अनेक व्यक्ति जीवन परिवर्तन कर दिथिला आ एबे आम सोसाइटी रे बहुत प्रतिष्ठित व्यक्ति ये मूल केंद्र बन जाइथिला खार सेंटर जहाँ को महाप्रभु जी बहुत प्रेम करुले निज निज घर प्रेम करुले 1980s रे श्री राधा गोपीनाथ मंदिर प्रतिष्ठित होता आपण जानती महाप्रभु प्रभु किपरि निजे जयपुर रु जाइकी विग्रह को आनी जहाँकि आमर इतिहास रे स्वर्णिम अक्षर लिखा है राधा गोपीनाथ मंदिर रे 25 कोर्ट केस होता श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु मैनेजिंग ट्रस्टी हवा जो से ए केसेस गुड़ाक विषय लड़ुले जहाँ जो महाप्रभु प्रभुंकर निश्चित भाव इनवॉल्वमेंट थिला प्रत्येक केस 25-26 केस टी सबू आम जीति जहाँ भीतर जन्माष्टमी राति जो सेलिब्रेशन हो राति 12 पर्यंत सी गोटे केस थिला सेटा को आम जीति हरि बोल महाप्रभु जी कृष्ण चेतना अति दृढ़ थिला से बुक डिस्कशन करथुले वास्तव रे कौन सी लेक्चर से दौले चाहे से व्यासासन हो बा अन्य को जगह हो बा कोर्ट केस रे कृष्ण पई लड़ंतु सबु बेले से कृष्ण चेतनशील थिले आउ तांकर कन्विक्शन तांकर इमोशन तांकर भक्ति एते सुदृढ़ थिला महाप्रभुंकर एक्सरे दृष्टि थिला महाप्रभु तांको चश्मा रो देखुथिले से देखि पारुथिले एवं कहि पारुथिले जे ये सिंसियर ये व्यक्ति सिंसियर ना ढिला रहउची जपा करूची कि ना आ से सबु भले पाई सत कथा कहउथिले कोन से मते जानि जाउथिले आ जदि छुटिया किछि भलो क्वालिटी थिबो कहा देले से ताको बहुत एप्रिशिएट करथले ग्लोरीफाई करथले महाप्रभु जी महाप्रभु जी परि आ गोटे भक्त ए समाज रे ए वर्ल्ड रा के हे परिबे ना से निश्चित भाव जने विशेष व्यक्तित्व तांकर जीवन निश्चित भाव गोटे प्रकार इतिहास रहिबो और से जीवन को एक आनंदमय भाव एक दृढ़ता सहित भक्तिर सहित प्रतिष्ठित भाव कहा को बिना कष्ट दे से जीचंती एवं ए संसार त्याग करिसंती तांको जीवनटा एक प्रकार सुंदर जीवन तेरे तांकर जो जो ए महाप्रभु प्रभु जो दिन देह छाड़िले से दिन श्रीनाथ जी प्रभु जन्मदिन थिला तेणु एकर कनेक्शन बहुत स्ट्रांग थिला बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महाप्रभु जी आमे आप प्रार्थना करूछु जे आमे आपण आम को आमे आपनकर पद चिन्ह शरण करि परिबु एवं आमको आपण आशीर्वाद दियंतु हरे कृष्ण एबे केशव जी प्रभु कहिबे केशव प्रभु कहउछंती हरे कृष्ण मते जहा कहबा थिला अनेक भक्त कहि देलेनी तेबे गोटे छोट गल्प कहबा को चाहिबा कथा कहबा चाहिबी मो पई महाप्रभु उच्च स्वाद थिले तांको स्टाइल तांकर व्यक्तिगत प्रश्न तो महाप्रभु को आपण प्रथम रूप तो चाहू नथिले भल लागु नथिला किंतु समय अनुसार मु तांको सहित बड़ बेस घुली मिल जाइतिली बा मिसी जाइतिली गोटे छोटिया घटना मु आपण को कहबा को चाहिबी तेबे प्रारंभिक समय जतले आमे ଜୁହୁଠାରୁ ବାହାରି ଯାଇଥିଲୁ, ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟିଆ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଥିଲୁ। ତେବେ କୀର୍ତ୍ତନ ମହାରାଜ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସୁଥିଲେ ସେତେବେଳେ ଭକ୍ତମାନଙ୍କୁ ବଡ ପ୍ରେରଣା ମିଳୁଥିଲା। ସେତେବେଳେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ହଉଥିଲା, ଏ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ପରେ କୀର୍ତ୍ତନାନନ୍ଦ ମହାରାଜଙ୍କୁ ସୁରତ ଯିବାର ଥିଲା ତାଙ୍କ କାରରେ। ଜଷ୍ଟ ବାହାରିଛନ୍ତି, ବହୁତ ଭକ୍ତ ତାଙ୍କ କାରକୁ ଘେରିଥିଲେ। କୀର୍ତ୍ତନ ମହାରାଜ କହିଲେ, ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ତୁମେ ମୋ ସହିତ ସୁରତ ଯିବନି? ते महाप्रभु तांकर किसी प्रस्तुति नहीं, संगे संगे बिना चपले से कार रे बसगले। ए प्रकार प्रस्तुति रे से तबे ए प्रकार घटना को मुझे भूली परिबिनी। ए गोटे घटना जहाँ मते महाप्रभु विषय बहुत किसी कहला, मु महाप्रभु ठीक भाई बुझी पारली। तबे मारुति 900 कार थिला, मारुति 800 से समय मारुति 800 गोटे बड़ भल कार थिला से समय। तापर जेन आसला, तबे महाप्रभु एटा शूट करनुथिला कारण महाप्रभु को स्पेस दरकार थिला तांको बही पई। तबे महाप्रभु गोटे रेड कलर गोटे स्पेसिफिक डिजाइन रो कार रखिथिले। तबे महाप्रभु कार ता ए प्रकार गोटे स्पेशल कार, आउ कोनोसी कार नथिला। बे कार ता अलग प्रकार कार थिला, एटा कोनोसी स्टैंडर्ड कार नथिला, तेणु याकू रजिस्टर से करैथिले। जो थे महाप्रभु बहुत गुड़े बही माल नौथिले। अपन प्रभुपाद लीला में तो पढ़िए, इनिशियल भक्त माने को प्रकार स्ट्रगल करी ए मूवमेंट को प्रतिष्ठित कर। सेमती राधा गोपीनाथ मंदिर रे महाप्रभु अवदान अनेक, ए माने बहुत कमिटेड थिले एवं ए माने तांको जीवन दवा पे मध्ये प्रस्तुत थिले। तेबे अलग लोक माने तांको बहुत रिडिकुलस करथिले बा तांको बहुत क्रिटिसाइज करथिले। महाप्रभु जी लायंस क्लब रे काफी प्रसिद्ध थिले, खास लायन क्लब रे जने प्रसिद्ध प्रतिष्ठित व्यक्ति थिले। तेबे समस्त सामने से तिलक कंठीमाला रे जाके पहुंच जाउथिले एवं किछु तांको कहिबार थिला सेटा बड़ प्रवचन देथिले। आ समस्त हसिबा लागिले, समस्त को टाही टापरा करबा लागिले। छोट छोट पिला माने मध्ये हसिबा लागुथिले महाप्रभु रे, किंतु महाप्रभु पाखरे एते मोटा चमड़ा थिला, तांको बार थिला कि सी ताको ग्रहण करथिले जणा नहीं। महाप्रभु किसी फरक पड़नुला, किए गाली दउची, किए क्रिटिसाइज करूची, महाप्रभु किसी फरक पड़नुला, खातिर करूनुले। महाप्रभु से लोक जाई पुणी आराम से कथबार्ता करते, तांको किसी फरक पड़नुला। तबे मारुति 900 जिन तांकर थिला, समस्त मारुति 800 तांको पे मारुति 900 थिला। सेमती महाप्रभुंकर पर्सनालिटी गोटे अलग प्रकार पर्सनालिटी थिला, तांको परि गोटे पर्सनालिटी के हेबेनी। तबे मु प्रभुपादଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ତାଙ୍କ ପ୍ରତି କୃତଜ୍ଞ। खार सेंटर जहाँ से करथिले एते एते क्रिटिकल थिला एते गुरुत्वपूर्ण थिला आउ आम घर रे जो मॉर्निंग प्रोग्राम होतला एवं खार मंदिर जो प्रकार प्रोग्राम होतला या आम मंदिर को प्रतिष्ठा करिबारे बेस बेस साहाय्य करिछि तबे सेती से समय रे खार सेंटर आम पई भक्तिर ओएसिस थिला महाप्रभु को आम जीवन सारा आजीवन स्मरण करिवु एवं आपनकर पद चिन्ह रे चालिबा पई प्रयास करिवु हरे कृष्ण बहुत धन्यवाद केशव प्रभु एबे महाप्रभुंकर पुत्र एवं पुत्री गिरि गोवर्धन प्रभु तेबे सम्मिलित समस्त भक्त मान मोर प्रणाम खास कर राधानाथ स्वामी महाराज गिरिराज महाराज भक्त महाराज ए समय महाराज कहबार थिला किंतु बहुत किछि बतन घटुछि तेणु मु मोर कथा को बहुत शॉर्ट रखिबी छोट रखिबी संक्षिप्त रखिबी मु महाप्रभु मोर पिता भक्तर भक्ति आसला परे मु आस्थिली तेणु मु महाप्रभुंकर इनिशियल प्रारंभिक जिनसोटा को जानिनी मो पई इस्कॉन टेम्पल महाप्रसाद सहित मोर जीवन प्रारंभ होइतिला मोर प्रारंभिक मेमोरी बा स्मरण होउची गिरिराज स्वामी महाराज सहित राधानाथ महाराज सहित अनेक प्रभुपाद डिसाइपल सहित शिष्य मान सहित आमे समस्ते से मानकर कोड़ रे बढ़ीचु जो माने हमको अनेक प्रेम देइचंती एवं मोर छुआ बेलटा ए मानकर प्रेम रे केयर रे जत्न रे आंको सुनी सुनी फ्राइडे प्रोग्राम रे मु बढ़ीची तेणु मो पई हुआ जाए जे गोटे पुअर बापा होउछि तार प्रथम हीरो आ से प्रकृत रे थिले कारण मोर बापा मो ठारू किछि आशा करनुतले एक्सपेक्ट करनुतले जहाँ भी हमर भल मंद आसीची बापा सब बेले मते भल पाउतले हाँ बापांकर गोटे विविध पर्सनालिटी थिला मध्य प्रदेश रो गोटे अजणा गाँ रे से जन्म होइतिले तांको भल जत्न दवा पई तांको दर्शन दवा पई गोटे छुआ कोन करिवो तांको सिखेया पई तांको पार केही नथिले आ सी एमिते एक परिस्थिति रे जन्म होइतिले सी जो माने माने एमिति व्यक्ति सहित सी जोड़ी होइतिले बा संग लाभ करथुले जो मानकर बुद्धि नथिला गरीब बा जो माने भल चरित्रवान नहते से मान तो जोड़ीतिले किंतु परवर्ती समय से बॉम्बे रे आस्तिले तबे संपूर्ण नीच बैकग्राउंड रु से मुंबई को आस्तिले मुंबई रे इंग्लिश से भल जान नथिले तांको इंग्लिश ता बहुत हॉरिबल थिला तो गवर्नमेंट लॉ कॉलेज रे से प्रवेश पाइथिले सेठी तांको लॉ पढिया पई ते तापर से स्टूडेंट काउंसिल चेयरमैन हे गले तापरे मैरिज परे मोर माँ बहुत संभ्रांत हैदराबाद रो गोटे संभ्रांत परिवार आस्तिले मोर माँ को परिवार साइडटा बड़ संस्कृति सभ्य एवं बड़ संभ्रांत परिवार आ मोर बापा सी गोटे जहाँकर किछि नथिला ए प्रकार बैकग्राउंड रो आछंती तेबे पापा मैरिज करिया पई गोटिए कंडीशन रे पास हेतिले से हाइट थिला ता परवर्ती समय से लॉयर हे गले तापरे जेम्स रा काउंसलर हे गले सब परवर्ती समय आसला देखिया गले गोटे गोटे पट देखिया गले मोर मां पट परिवार एवं बापा पट परिवार कोनो मैच ही नथिला किंतु मोर बापा निश्चित भाव तांको विवाह करथिले एवं पाई जैथिले तापर तांकर लीगल प्रैक्टिस बा तांकर लीगल जो हमर आईनगत जिंस जोठी बड़ बड़ लोक माने बसुले आईन रो वकील माने सीए समस्त सहित बसुले एवं धीरे 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 बड़ बड़ जजेस मान सहित हाईकोर्ट जज मान सहित बड़ बड़ एलिट लॉयर मान सहित से बसा जीवा आशा करथुले बसुथिले कथावार्ता करथुले तेबे इस्कन को ए लॉ रे बा आईन हिसाब रे इस्कन को बहुत सहायता करछन से तेबे बापांकर जीवा परे अनेक वकील मते फोन करती एवं से कहउचंदी जे केमिति से को केस रो इस्कन रो केस रे से बापा को हेल्प करथिले तन भाबंतु केवल इस्कन पई से केते सहायता करचंती बड़ 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 वकील मानकू से इस्कन रो केस लड़ौथिले तांको पैसा मध्ये दउथिले आ पुनी तांको ठारो लाख लाख टंकार डोनेशन इस्कन मंदिर पे आनुथिले तेबे डजन डजन केस पई जो मंदिर रु जहा जहा बड़ बड़ केस हेची ताको बेस्ट भाबरे से सॉल्व करचन दैट टू फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट पुनी बड़ बड़ वकील ठारो से डोनेशन मध्ये आनिचंती तेबे गोटे गोटे केस लड़िया पई लाख लाख टका लागि थांता किंतु ताको से इस्कन पई फ्री रे लड़ैछंती तांकर आईन प्रैक्टिस परे तो समय आसिला सी प्रभुपादंकर ज्यूज एवं अमेरिकन सन्यासी अमेरिकन भक्त मान सहित संग लाभ करथिले तापर से पछुको देखि नांती एबे भारतर सबुठार बेसी लाइफ मेंबर से बनेछंती तांकर बड़ अभ्यास थिला जे लोकन को से किपरि दीक्षा दिया करिवे तेबे प्रचार तांकर एक्टिविटी थिला तांकर कार्य थिला आउ लोक माने केमिति बा भक्त माने केमिति दीक्षा नेबे एटा तांकर हॉबी थिला अभ्यास थिला आउ महाप्रभुंकर बड़ अनेक भक्त चिन्ही थिले अनेक लोक चिन्ही थिले तांकर नेटवर्क बहुत भलो थिला गोटे समय आसला एमिति गोटे समय आसला जोठी जो माने भक्त नहांती बा बड़ बड़ जगार अछंती किंतु भक्त नुहंती से माने कसर संपर्क भलो थिला किंतु भक्त नथिबा जोगु से तांक सहित संपर्क रखनथिले केवल भक्त मान संपर्क रखुथिले से जो माने भक्त चांटिंग करूचंती बा भक्ति रे अछंती सेमान सहित से मिसुथिले ए बाकी लोकन से मिसुनथिले तेबे से माने पांच जण माने साथी थिले केवल सहदेव प्रभु ही कर परिवार ही भक्ति नहीं थिले तेबे महाप्रभु प्रभु को पई एमान सब इतिहास हे गले केवल महाप्रभु प्रभु सहदेव प्रभु सहित साथी रहले तेनु महाप्रभु जने विराट फैनाटिक थिले जे केवल गुरु को सेवा रे माती थिले मु देखि पारुची तांकर भौतिक जहा दरकार थिला सब कृष्ण देखि दिथिले कहीं ना कृष्ण सब आमको सप्लाई देथिले कारण 19 माने 1922 मसिया परे से कोनोसी आउ चाकरी कर नथिले बा कोनोसी कार्य कर नथिले किंतु तापरे आमे देखिलु जे आम एजुकेशन पई आम परिवार पई कोनोसी पैसार आवश्यकता बा कोनसो कमी हि नथिला सब जिंस मेंटेन हि जाइतिला ए 20 वर्ष शेष 20 वर्ष रे मु देखुची से मो सहित जो इंटरेक्शन करिसन तांकर गोटे प्रकार लक्ष्य थिला मु देखुची जे आम मानक प्रति तांकर जो आसक्ति थिला बा जो भल पाइबा थिला एटा असीमित थिला से सबु पळे आमको देखुतले जे आमे केमिति प्रॉब्लम न आसबु ब्रह्मचारी मानकु सन्यासी मानकु भक्त मानकु से निश्चित भाव में 2 थर 3 थर कंफर्म करथि जे आमे कोनोसी प्रॉब्लम न पडु भक्त माने कोन ट्रबल न पडंतु तांका नेचर थिला के असुविधा न पडंतु तांकर दुईटा सिद्धांत थिला जे केबे लोन नियो नाही नो डेट मैन थिले से तांका बारे कोनोसी लोन नथिला एवं 2 चकिया जान रे केबे ट्रैवल करबनी एवं लोकल ट्रेन रे कोनोस भाबे झुली के आसे दरकार नहीं गोटे जिनस हमको बहुत सहाय्य कला तांकर तालीम जे नो लोन सैटल कोनोसी लोन जीवन नबा उचित नुहे एटा हमको बहुत सहाय्य करछि ए कोविड समय जो लास्ट किछि मास रे आम मान भितरे बहुत आसक्त थिले आम माने बहुत मिसी रहउतलु से कोविड को बहुत डरुथिले तेणु प्रिकॉशन बहुत नउथिले आम मान भितरे गोटे बहुत बढ़िया बॉन्डिंग थिला आम बिजनेस बहुत बढ़िया थिला आ बढ़िया से बढ़ुची मध्य महाप्रभु बा मोर पिताजी बड़ा आनंदर थिले महाप्रभु कौन जिनस स्लो करनुथिले महाप्रभु सबले हरि तरबर रहउथिले से समय के बर्बाद कले सही परनुथिले सेमती महाप्रभु जीवन छाड़िले से मते गोटे मिनिट रे सार देले समय कोनोसी सड़ीबा नाही कोनोसी माने कष्ट पाई नाहंती गोटे मिनिट रे से ठीक थिले आ गोटे मिनिट पर से पळे जेतले से ये हो तांकर पर्सनालिटी तबे अंतिम रे मोर माँ मोर पिताजी एवं मु रोहित नंदन प्रभु मध्य आमे राधानाथ स्वामी रूम को जाइथिलु आमे एमती कथा होतलु मारे मधे एमती किछ कथा कहउतले आमे आमे केमे दिन अतिबाहित करछु सो कथा होतलु मो माँ मोर पिताजी सब कथा होतुंदी महाराज दी जन को देखि कहले कृष्णा इज अमेजिंग कृष्णा बड़ा अद्भुत माँ को देखि कहले महाप्रभु महाराज कहले कि तुम्हें दी जन पाई बना है तुम्हें दी जन जा कृष्ण को शरणापन्न ही भगवत धाम चली जीव मारवाड़ी आम सभ्यतार कह जाए जिते बड़े बापा चली जाती गोटे कस्टम अच्छे आमर पगड़ी पगड़ी कस्टम कौन ना यहाँ हूँ गोटे ऑफिशियल कथा फैमिली बा परिवार भावे जे एबे पुत्र बापार संपत्ति को इनहेरिट करिवो जहाँ बापा प्रचार करिसंती मु कौन इनहेरिट करिवि मु कौन पाइबी ତାଙ୍କର କେବଳ ସମ୍ପତ୍ତି ଅଛି ଗୁରୁ ମହାରାଜଙ୍କୁ ସେବା କରିବା ପ୍ରଚାର, ଆଉ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କଣ ବା ନେବି? ମହାପ୍ରଭୁଙ୍କୁ କେବଳ ପ୍ରଚାର ପାଇଁ ସୁଯୋଗ ଦରକାର, ବାସ୍। ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ବହୁତ ସ୍ୱାସ୍ଥ୍ୟବାନ ଥିଲେ, ଏକଦମ ସୁସ୍ଥ ଥିଲେ। ଡକ୍ଟର ମାନେ କହୁଥିଲେ ତୁମେ ବହୁତ ସ୍ୱାସ୍ଥ୍ୟବାନ, କିନ୍ତୁ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ କେବଳ ପ୍ରଚାର ପାଇଁ ଦୁଃଖ ପାଉଥିଲେ, ଆଉ କୌଣସି ଜିନିଷ ନାହିଁ। ମହାପ୍ରଭୁଙ୍କୁ କେବଳ ପ୍ରଚାର ପାଇଁ ସୁଯୋଗ ଦରକାର ଥିଲା, ଆଉ କିଛି ନାହିଁ। ମୋ ପାଇଁ ତ ନିହାତି ଅସମ୍ଭବ ଭାବିବା ମଧ୍ୟ କି ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ଯାହା କରିଛନ୍ତି ମୁଁ କେବେ ଭାବିପାରିବି, କରିବା ତ ଦୂରର କଥା। ତେବେ ପ୍ରାର୍ଥନା କରୁଛି ଯେ ବୈଷ୍ଣବ ମାନେ ଆମ ପରିବାରକୁ ଆଶୀର୍ବାଦ ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ, ଯେ ଆମେ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ ଯାହା କରୁଥିଲେ ଆମେ ସେଟା କରିବା ପାଇଁ, ତାଙ୍କ ପଦଚିହ୍ନ ଚାଲିବା ପାଇଁ ପ୍ରସ୍ତୁତ କରିବୁ, ପ୍ରଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବୁ। ବହୁତ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ହରେ କୃଷ୍ଣ। ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ମୋ ବାପାଙ୍କର ଦେହ ତ୍ୟାଗ କରିବାର ନ୍ୟୁଜ ପାଇଲି, ଏଇଟା ସକାଳ ଥିଲା ମେ 27 ତାରିଖ। ପ୍ରଥମ ଜିନିଷ ଯାହା ମୋ ପାଖକୁ ଆସିଲା ସେ ହଉଛି, ବାପା ଆପଣ ଏତେ ସୌଭାଗ୍ୟବାନ ଥିଲେ। ଏଇଟା ହିଁ ମୋ ହୃଦୟକୁ ଆସିଥିଲା। ମୁଁ ମୋର ବାପାଙ୍କ ସହିତ 5 ଦିନ ପୂର୍ବରୁ କଥା ହେଇଥିଲି। ପଇଁତିରିଶ ବର୍ଷ ଭିତରେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ କନଭର୍ସନ ହେଇଛି ତାହା ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ଇଭଲ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି। ଏହା ମିନିଂଫୁଲ ହେଇଛି। ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ କଥାରେ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଥିଲି ଯେ ମୋ ବାପାଙ୍କର ଜଣେ ନ୍ୟୁ ଲଭର ଅଛନ୍ତି, ସେଟା ହଉଛନ୍ତି କୃଷ୍ଣଙ୍କର ଭକ୍ତଙ୍କ ସହିତ ସଙ୍ଗ। ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଥିଲି ଯେ ସେ କେମିତି ଆମକୁ ଏ ପ୍ରକାର ସ୍ୱାଦ, ଭକ୍ତ ମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ସଙ୍ଗ କରିବାର ସ୍ୱାଦକୁ ଦବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଥିଲେ ବା ଦଉଛନ୍ତି। ସେ କେବେ କେବେ ତାଙ୍କର ହୃଦୟ ମୋ ସହିତ ସେୟାର କରୁଥିଲେ, ମୁଁ ଶୁଣୁଥିଲି। ସେ ମତେ ଉପହାର ଦଉଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ମୁଁ କେବେ କେବେ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଆଦାନ ପ୍ରଦାନ କରୁଥିଲି। ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନଥିଲି ସେ କନଭର୍ସନ ଟା ମୋର ଲାଷ୍ଟ କଥାବାର୍ତ୍ତା ହେବେ ବୋଲି। ମୋର ଝିଅ मोर पिताजी ए वर्ष मानक भितरे बड़ा सॉफ्ट हो जाइथिले मो अनुभव रे से तांकर भल पाइबाकू तांकर भल पाइबाकू मते निहात भाव प्रतिपादन करबा चाहूतिले से सबुबल पई से सबुबल ओपन थिले से जहाँ आपण कहबे ताको ग्रहण करबा इच्छा करथिले गोटे अलग प्रकार व्यक्तित्व थिले से आ प्रचार पई ताकर मन सबुबल थिला से सबुबल पई शिक्षा करबा चाहूतिले ताहले ताको से प्रैक्टिस करिवे एवं से अन्य मान को देई परिवे लोकमान के जीवन रे किछि दबा पई सबल चाहूतिले से एपरि कथा करबा चाहूतिले जोटा केही करि पारनथिले कारण तांकर एते बडा अभिज्ञता थिला लीगल फील्ड रे आइन फील्ड रे मोर पिताजी 84 बयस रे देहत्याग करछन्ती ଏହା कुआ जाईछि मोर बापा 1008 रु अधिक पूर्ण बा पूर्णिमा एक्सपीरियंस करछन्ती कुआ जाए जो माने 1008 रु अधिक पूर्णिमा अनुभव करछन्ती सेमानकर मृत्यु अलगा प्रकार ही था मु प्रार्थना करूछि जे मोर जीवन मो बापा और मो मां कर सम्मान को बढ़ाओ बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण मो सहित मो महाप्रभुंकर संपर्क 54 वर्षर फ्रेंडशिप बा साथी बा एटा केवल आम दी जनकर सांग नथिलु आम परिवार ही सांग करथिलु महाप्रभु सबुल पई प्रस्तुत थिले एवं सबुल पई एक्सटेंड करूथिले गोटे कथा मु कहबा को चाहूची जेतले महाप्रभु केमती मते तांकर मते सहाय्य करथिले मोर पत्नी लुधियाना जाक चाहूतिले जाई पार नथिलु कारण आम पाखरे बापा मां थिले जो माने टिके वार्धक्य अवस्था को आस जाइथिले महाप्रभु जानिबा पहिले विषय रे से कोन कले महाप्रभु कोन कले हमर सिस्टर बा भौणी कांता को हम घर पठेतिले सहाय्य करिया पई ताहले हम जाई पारलु महाप्रभु एते एते अधिक आगो को जाई सहाय्य करंती महाप्रभु कृष्ण कंस आसिया परे तांका जीवन रे पूरा परिवर्तन हो जाइतिला कृष्ण कंस बहुत गभीर भाव से प्रवेश करते एवं मायापुर रे दीक्षा नहीं 1979 रे गोटे वर्ष भीतर से दीक्षा नहीं आउ महाप्रभु गोटे योजना कर मास्टर थिले महाप्रभु ट्रांसजेंडरल मैनिपुलेटर कहा 4 वर्ष पे मु बहुत मु एते सिंसियर नथिली तेणु तेणु से मते कहले जदि तुमे गोटे घरे प्रोग्राम करिवो ताले गिरिराज महाराज बहुत खुशी ही जिवे तेणु ए प्रकार गोटे प्रोग्राम अरेंज हेतिला गिरिराज महाराज जाउथिले से मते पचारले तुमर किसी प्रॉब्लम अछि कि इनिशिएशन आ पई मु साइलेंट थिली तेबे से मते कहतली ता भलो आईडिया जदि तुमे नेक्स्ट इनिशिएशन पई प्रस्तुत रहइबो मोर पत्नी एवं मु नेक्स्ट रे भक्ति पादन थारु हमें दीक्षा नहीं मोर इनिशिएशन गोटे बहुत बढ़िया भाबे एमिति गोटे परिस्थिति तैयारी करथिले जे भक्तिपाद महाराज को से गोटे दिन मो पई केवल दीक्षा देवा पई प्रस्तुत करथिले मु के भूली परिबिना तो से चाहूतले लोक माने केमिति दीक्षा पांतु कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस रो भितरु के बाहर की न जानतु से सबले चाहूतले
of Srila Prabhupada, Society for Krishna Consciousness. Bhai Sahib, that's who you were. You changed the fate of our family, spiritually and materially, single-handedly. Your exceptional journey through all the many, many struggles and even more achievements is glorious in its own light. You were always meant for big things, and me and my family received all the mercy and blessings simply by being a part of your family. We don't know how you did it all, how you provided for your family adequately while dedicating every minute of your time, thoughts, and energy in the service of Srila Prabhupada. You being a lawyer in the city could have made it so big materially, but you were detached. Rather, I should say you were attached to the right things, attached to Srila Prabhupada. Without a second guessing yourself even once, your satisfaction lied in utilizing your earning towards preaching activities. Your Maruti car especially. Everyone who must have worked at manufacturing that particular car would have definitely been blessed with so much Agyat Sukruti. At this point, I can't help but remember my Bhabi, Palika Mataji, who supported you wholeheartedly in this surrender and walked the path with you with so much grace and respect. She was your backbone. You could get away with all your spontaneity and preaching adventures due to the rock solid support of that one woman only. Your spontaneous and charming personality, coupled with your honest and sincere faith in Shishi Radha Vrindavan Natwar, attracted so many souls to Krishna consciousness. What Friday programs has given not only me, but most of us here is immeasurable and priceless. The foundation, the service, the opportunity, the association, exposure, learnings, and long talks after the program. The arguments to serve better are memories that I will always hang on to for feeding my soul day after day. For the last 4 decades, I have seen you living a life of giving, giving, and giving only, with no expectations from anyone in return. You were saral, samarpit, and shuddha in your dealings. Bhai Sahib, you were progressive, not letting limitations like gender, caste, and social status affecting your judgment. You were aggressive, never letting anyone you met go without touching his life with Krishna consciousness. You were expressive, never fearing what people would think or say. And of course, Bhai Sahib, you were impressive. Never would anyone who met you once forget that they did meet you. You were obsessive, never leaving an opportunity to quite literally distribute love of God, even if that meant risking your life quite literally. How many people like these do we know today? And how many of us have the fortune to actually witness someone like this in action? I feel proud and humbled to have known you so closely. I feel fortunate to have been given this live example of moral and ethical values, of simple living and high thinking. You have left us a legacy and an example which we promise to strive to follow and hopefully make you proud, although you don't expect so. Personally, for me, I offer my deepest gratitude and gratefulness for the faith, trust, and confidence you had in me. Devi jo bhi bolegi, waise hi hoga. For those words to come from a personality like Mahaprabhu Prabhu, a man with so much command, gave a new bride like myself so much validation and confidence. His encouragement meant the world to me. While Bhabi was strict and loving in her own way, Baisap was extremely accepting and open-minded. We would all meet the night he would return from his travels abroad to listen to his stories, and more so to receive all the gifts he would get us. He would say, Devi, pehle tum peti kholo aur tumko jo pasand hai wo le lo. And I would be gloating from within to have this privilege every single time. He treated me no different than his own daughter Shama, who herself accepted me like her own sister and not Chachi. He's my father in true sense of the term. He did for me so much more than my own father could have. Just like it's impossible to list down and thank one's own parents for all the things they do. Similarly, Bhai Sahib, everything that we are as a family, as well as individually today, we owe it to you all. You know how much I love you and admire you. We hope when it is time, you will be there to take us so that we can continue serving Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Natwar with you forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Radhanath Prabhu. Loving words of the youngest brother of the six in the family. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. When Mahaprabhu departed and we were planning for this evening, we were thinking of a photograph. So when the Manjari came up with this photograph, we went to the lockdown photo shop. It was shut, but he made this photograph. We were both Giri or sitting in the car. When he got this photograph, and he asked, such a wonderful. And with my blurred eyes, and he immediately said, let's go for framing this. I was not in a state to accompany him. It is very, very hard for me to see Mahaprabhu in a frame. But it is also true that I don't need a frame to remember Mahaprabhu. I have enough lovely and sweet memories about you to live with a grateful heart for the rest of my life. I'm skipping many things because of respecting Gurudev's time. On 1969, our father was treated of cancer, being treated at Bombay, and in 1972, he passed. I was giving my board exam. I was not informed of this devastating news. That is when I landed up there in Bombay. Ever since I came to Bombay, my identity has been Mahaprabhu. It has been an honor to be known as a brother of His Grace Mahaprabhu. We would have been orphans had Mahaprabhu not looked after us. Not that he had facilities and the means to offer us at that time, but he had a huge heart and desire to fulfill his responsibility. He was living in one-room kitchen, and he sheltered Mukunda, our two marriageable sister, our mother, and me. At one point of time, we were 8 of us, including Palika Mataji and Shama. He not only accommodated us, but also got each one of us settled. The sad part is, despite him fulfilling his responsibility to the best of his ability and capacity, some expected him to do much more than what he did. Such is the nature of this material world. I consider myself fortunate to be member of Mahaprabhu's family. But in the last 10 days, I realized that Mahaprabhu's family is much larger than I thought. He touched the lives of countless souls, how many calls, and they all felt that we were the member of Mahaprabhu's family. Our Kakaji, the eldest member of our family, called me up to say just one line. We have lost the crown of our Khandan. There has been many first in my life. The list is long. I don't want to take time. But the first tilak on my forehead was put by him. The first check I got of my salary because of him. The dhoti he made me wear. And there are hundreds of such things. He was a very, very energetic, enthusiastic personality. Difficult to cope up with him, but it was contagious. He was the most daring person I knew. In all his dealing and relationship, his topmost consideration was if a person is devotee or not. This was the basis of accepting Devi Priya wholeheartedly, or for that matter, accepting a match for Shama and Bandhamanjari. When we were discussing a name for Baldev in Maharaj's room, how much Maharaj respects and value, as if Maharaj is asking me, have you told this to Maharaj? Have you told this, whether Mahaprabhu know this? As if Maharaj is asking me, have you consulted your father? And instantly came out of my mouth, Maharaj, Mahaprabhu has only one consideration, whether that person is a devotee or not. One day, from the safe, all of a sudden, he thought, I don't know why. From his safe, he removed a letter written by our late father and made me read. My father had beautiful handwriting in which it is expressed, he has expressed his desire to Mahaprabhu. And he said, if in case you do not get a son, adopt Ram Babu. For years together, our relationship was like father and son only. But lately, out of his humility, he wanted me to play a different role, that of a brother come friend. His own life, because of non-engagement, was bothering him. And also, what he shared with me, for several issues, he was sometimes disturbed. I'm just giving, I have list of things, but I don't want to take time. For example, one day on Friday, at around 11 o'clock, he calls me that, do you know anything which I do not know, and for that I have displeased Maharaj? Well, what are you talking at this time? Why you are talking? You know something, Maharaj is not coming to Friday program. It was a childlike inquiry. His attachment to Friday program. Khar means Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu means Khar, and for Mahaprabhu, Khar program is zero without Maharaj coming there. That was his conditioning. So I said, yes, if you think that he is displeased with you or you have displeased him, I think, I don't know why I spoke at that time like this, and I spoke, yes, he is also probably displeased with Krishna Chandra Prabhu. So he did not understand why I said like that. Mahaprabhu, he has stopped going to Pune. So Krishna Chandra Prabhu also should think like this. Now things are changing. You also understand how he. So then one thing was common in Mahaprabhu. One thing that was very, very, that if you explain to him, Mukunda, I was talking to Dave yesterday, he is like child. You explain to him and he's immediately convinced. Yes, what you are saying is right. Before the lockdown, one day he asked me, what do you all discuss when you meet for your Bhagavatam session, discussion? I mentioned that just that day before we had discussed, and Murlidhar Prabhu was mentioning his interaction with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He had just visited Chicago, and he said, I asked Maharaj, Maharaj, you must be having some lovely memories in this house. I repeat, Maharaj, you must be having some lovely and sweet memories of this house. Then Maharaj answered, I process them to be lovely and sweet. We had a long discussion for about 2-3 hours on this sentence with Mahaprabhu, I and me. On this one statement of Guru Maharaj, and probably this statement of his Gurudev changed his life. On this day, he spoke to me many good qualities of Giri Govardhan. And also, as he was regularly talking about Sundari Manjari, that she does not have any bad quality. She is filled with only, but he was concerned for Giri Govardhan. My greatest pleasure that gradually and finally, when he left this world, he was free from all anxiety and he was relaxed. I am also glad that on 2-3 occasions, I expressed with all gratefulness how grateful and thankful I was for numbers of things he has done for me and my family. One day in the assembly of the devotees, he out of his humility said, I am proud to be brother of Rohini Nandan. I have many stories about his honesty, his daring, his humility, his love for me, his style of daily reporting of his preaching activities, his style of encouragement, his childlike mood, but time will not permit. He passed through many challenges, handling 3 cancer patients, mother-in-law, father, and also his own wife. Emotional challenges about Shama and spiritual calamities and many other crises during this journey, but never ever lost faith in the teaching of Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada's family. He was a personality who could easily be misunderstood. But how I saw Mahaprabhu was on the basis of Lord Ram's declaration. When Vibhishan comes to Ram's camp, anyone who says once, I'm yours, Mahaprabhu has said, Prabhupada, I'm yours, and he never looked back. And another thing, Ram said, Nirmal man jan so mohi pawa, mohi kapat chala chidrna bhava. Who can attain me? One who is simple and clean in heart. I always saw Mahaprabhu simple and clean in heart. And who cannot get me? Mohi kapat chal chidrna bhava. The one who has kapat, chal, and who is blasphemous. I never saw ever he has any kind of a kapat for anyone. And what I have seen, only glorifying and encouraging. I do not know, perhaps the maximum time my wife have heard this word, Devi is a pure devotee. Every single day, maximum time. And many such devotees must have experienced that so-and-so is a pure devotee. So this is my impression. This will always remain my impression. Ram, Krishna, Maheshwari certainly attained mercy of Lord Ram, Krishna, and Gurudev. Bhai Sahab, be rest assured, my family and I always will be there for Girish and his family, just the way you were always there for all of us. Together, we will all strive to live a life of purpose in pleasing our Gurudev. Thank you.
How very heartwarming, how very wonderful to hear such deep emotions of pure love or pure gratitude, and such sentiments of unity and brotherhood. This is so rare in today's damned Kali Yuga, right? So I think we need to move out of this temple now and move on to our worshipable spiritual masters now. Mahaprabhu's greatest source of inspiration, love, and surrender were towards His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj and his dear Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So, even though it is late, our hearts are open and hankering and eager to hear the loving words of the stature of Giriraj Maharaj, who is so very dear to Mahaprabhu's heart. I'm sure equally Giriraj Maharaj feels the same way for Mahaprabhu also. Maharaj, request you to kindly share your love through your sweet words. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Namaha. His Grace Mahaprabhu Das's first association with ISKCON came on January 14th, 1978, when the Juhu Temple opened. And his life changed completely by Srila Prabhupada's grace and the association of Srila Prabhupada's devotees. And I think I'll read something because sort of emotional now. This was from His Holiness Radhanath Swami's disciple, Sita Devi. She was one of the first who reached out to me when she got the news. And she wrote, I'm so heartbroken and sad to hear this news of Mahaprabhu Das's leaving. It is a personal loss. My name is Sandhya, the same as his daughter's. So the first day at Radha Gopinath Temple, I met him, and he called me his daughter. I was there holding Palika Mataji's hand when she was leaving and singing kirtan for her. I'm in Hyderabad and could not even take his last darshan, so I'm feeling so much grief and pain. Need your prayers for me to get through these difficult times. Then I replied, I also feel heartbroken. He was such a dear friend and such devotee, and he brought so many people to Krishna consciousness and helped them along the way. I will pray for you in the midst of my own separation grief. Anyway, then I said, Mahaprabhu Das and I were very close. I cannot even begin to count all the times I had prasad at his home, all the times I spoke at his car satsang center, all the times we went preaching together, all the times we worked on legal matters together, all the times we cultivated people together. So one incident that comes to mind, I mean, we had so much association, but somehow one incident that comes to mind was when I had heard that Pushpakant Matre, who was one of the, you could say, enemies of the Jew project, was, I don't know, he was arranging to have me murdered. And I was at Mahaprabhu Das's home in car, and I thought maybe I'll just spend the night there. Although I wasn't prepared, I had been to the city to preach. And, but at 2 a.m, somehow within my heart, I felt it's okay. I mean, nothing's going to happen at this stage. And Mahaprabhu Das stayed up with me until 2 a.m. And to me, that symbolizes how he was ready to extend himself to any extent for others. And we've heard so many accounts. And yeah, I mean, he was unique. He can never be replaced. But reflecting on some things that some of the others have said, one about his contradictory qualities, apparently contradictory qualities. Soon after the Juhu temple opened and Mahaprabhu Das was beginning to associate with us, I showed him a film. In those days, we didn't have videos, but we had these little portable Fairchild projectors. So I showed him a film of Srila Prabhupada. And almost as soon as he saw Srila Prabhupada's face, he said, "I have never seen anyone like him. He has so much love, and at the same time, he's so detached." Usually, if someone has love, they're attached. Or if someone is detached, they don't have love. And he said, I see in Srila Prabhupada that he had both. And in his own way, Mahaprabhu Das also had both. And being detached really means being attached to Krishna. Being attached to Krishna means that we are detached from Maya. And he was in his legal work, he was so instrumental in helping ISKCON, the Juhu project, and also the Radha Gopinath temple. And he had such a big heart. It's like, but he expressed his love by preaching. Preaching was his life. I mean, he was a preacher to the core. And I could appreciate when Sundari Manjari and maybe others commented that at the end, he was frustrated because he couldn't preach. And, Krishna fulfilled his desire to create a situation in which he could again preach, because that was his life. And yeah, he would preach to anyone and everyone. And he also, in a way, facilitated my preaching. And he was by far, he was my favorite Hindi translator. And he would, like they say about Sukadev Goswami, Suka the parrot, that the fruit becomes sweeter when it's touched by the beaks of the parrot. So I think my talks became sweeter or heavier with Mahaprabhu Das's translations. It was just wonderful. I love preaching with him because he loved preaching so much. And it so happened that just the day before he left, I mentioned him in a talk I gave. Because in the talk on Zoom, someone raised the question that, because there's a verse, of course it didn't apply to Mahaprabhu Das, but Krishna says, Yasyaham anugranami harishe tadanam shanai, that when I'm especially mercifully inclined to someone, the first installment of my special mercy is I take everything away. So in this talk, in the questions and answers, someone said, well, that being the case, some people might be afraid to become devotees. And I quoted Mahaprabhu Das. Mahaprabhu Das would always be inviting people to Juhu. And everything was nice, the temple was beautiful, the darshan was lovely, and then we had Govinda's restaurant where they could get sumptuous prasad. Everything was right. But Mahaprabhu Das told me some people would not come because they felt that Krishna consciousness, going to ISKCON or Krishna consciousness, is a one-way street. And once you start down that road, there's no turning back. And then in the end, you give everything to Krishna. So yeah, he was very practical. And I can't imagine, frankly, I can't imagine life in Mumbai without him. I mean, but we do have his memories, we have his example, we have his legacy. And, I feel, others have also expressed a similar sentiment, but I feel even greater resolve to live up to his ideals and to pursue the goals that he held so dear to his heart, which include his love and care, for his family members and friends, and also his desire to share Krishna consciousness with anyone and everyone. He came to America on some occasions and we preached together here. And he was although in a way, his preaching was styled to the environment in India, which is where he grew up, and he really knew the people. But I saw in my experience with him in America, he really touched people's hearts and influenced their minds, because of his sheer conviction and care for the people to whom he was preaching. So, I'll, as the rest of us, I'll try to serve in separation and really try to uphold the ideals that he held dear to his heart and support the causes, including the people that were so dear to him. Some devotees mentioned his connection with our dear Srinath Das. And that also, I remember when Kirtanananda Swami came to Juhu, he was staying in Juhu, and he said, Mahaprabhu Das and Srinath Das, they're like my right hand and my left hand. And yeah, what a powerful combination. And I do remember when we had a crisis in Juhu, the two of them collaborated to help us come out of the crisis. So I'm thinking now of Srila Prabhupada's statement that we'll have another ISKCON in the spiritual sky. He wrote a letter to a devotee named Tusta Krishna Das, his disciple. And it just so happened that Tusta Krishna Prabhu was the first devotee to meet Mr. Nair, who played a big role in the history of Hare Krishna land. And I think I need not recount his role or the history. But so in this one letter, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Tusta Krishna Prabhu that, we'll have another ISKCON in the spiritual sky, and you will go, and then Tusta Krishna Prabhu was like a devotee who he became a disciple of Prabhupada named Siddha Swarup. So, you will go, Siddha Swarup will go, and he said Shamsundar will go, because I think he mentioned him because Shamsundar was the GBC, and everyone will go, and we'll have another ISKCON in the spiritual sky. Only Mr. Nair, he will not go. So I'm looking forward to being with Mahaprabhu Das and all of our dear friends and devotees in that ISKCON in the spiritual sky. So thank you all for giving me this opportunity to remember our dear, dear beloved Mahaprabhu Das and his wonderful qualities and example and activities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It is our honor to have heard from you your long association with Mahaprabhu, and what a fortune he shared in his life to be your preaching partner. What was the caliber of a person in terms of devotional merits to be assisting you in your preaching, who himself is such a legend in Krishna consciousness. So, and it only recounts more the glory of Mahaprabhu to be your able assistant in preaching. Thank you very much for sharing your time and your memories with us. And I'd like to request now our beloved Gurudev, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, to please share his thoughts, his love with all of us here. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj, for being with us today again on this very, very special occasion of Mahaprabhu's memorial service.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Shatarine Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are gathered together to honor a Vaishnav who has so deeply affected our hearts and transformed our lives. In connection to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, everyone has either directly or indirectly been transformed by the association of Mahaprabhu Prabhu. We have just had the special fortune to hear from His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. As he was speaking, my heart was totally melting, and I just felt such a brotherhood with him, God brotherhood, in the service of Srila Prabhupada, because of the very inconceivable, sweet, and intimate way that the two of us together associated with Mahaprabhu Prabhu. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj was there for the planting of the seed of bhakti, or let us say the awakening of the seed of bhakti in Mahaprabhu's heart. And more than anyone, he was there to water that seed. And Mahaprabhu Prabhu had such profound gratitude and devotion to His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, because it was through that relationship that Srila Prabhupada so much manifested in the heart and in the life of Mahaprabhuji. I first met Mahaprabhu Prabhu in 1979. And at that time, at Radha Ras Bihari Temple, there was a serious legal case where prominent devotees who were all Western were being accused of criminal activities, serious criminal activities. And Srinathji Prabhu was very much a dedicated devotee at that time. He had had so many years of association with Srila Prabhupada and His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj. And Mahaprabhu Prabhu, he took on this case, and he was one of the leading lawyers. And the more he studied the accusations against ISKCON, the more he read the books, the more he learned about Prabhupada, the greater the faith he had. And this nature in him to be a warrior, to fight with inconceivable courage to protect Srila Prabhupada's devotees. It was first manifested then, and it just continued growing over the years and over the decades. We have heard from so many, and each and every one of your offerings was truly beautiful, filled with sincerity, with gratitude, and with love for Mahaprabhu, Prabhu. An incredible tribute to his life. An exalted community of people have come together, and this event has already been about 6 hours, and and every devotee had to cut themselves off from everything they wanted to speak. Mahaprabhu Prabhu cared so deeply. And each devotee has a nature. The whole idea of varnashram is that people of different natures express their devotion to Krishna accordingly. Mahaprabhu, he had deep gratitude, deep love, and deep care for Srila Prabhupada, for Srila Prabhupada's movement, and for all the devotees connected. And from the roots of that care, we have heard many examples today of how Mahaprabhu planted the seed of devotion in people's hearts, watered that seed, cut the weeds around that seed, and how he was inconceivably courageous to protect devotees. Any obstacle in a devotee's life, Mahaprabhu was willing to confront that. It may have been, parents who were apprehensive. Mahaprabhu, with such grace, would dovetail his role in society as being a successful lawyer, a respected member of society. He would convince parents who were afraid and negative toward our movement to be proud of their children. And most of those parents became devotees also in course of time. We heard about devotees who were employed by abusive employers, and how Mahaprabhu would go right to the office of that person and straighten it out. We heard of situations in colleges where devotees were being ridiculed because of their devotional inclinations, and how Mahaprabhu, he would go to the principals, he would go to the teachers, and they would all change, practically without exception, because of his conviction, because they just had to respect this man. Therefore, they had to respect the devotees he was defending. At Radharas Bihari Temple, when there was that legal case and so many other legal cases after that, Srinathji Prabhu and Giriraj Swami and Mahaprabhu would fight for, because of the dignity, the integrity of Mahaprabhu's personality and the respect he had earned, top lawyers who charge a fortune for every minute they meet with people, they were dedicating large amounts of time to help to fight this case, directly or indirectly, without charging anything. Yes, at those times when Kirtanananda Swami was very much prominent, in Srinathji Prabhu and Mahaprabhu, Prabhu were his right and left hands. And they were so totally powerful. and then situations changed. And when we established Radha Gopinath Temple, I remember at the beginning, there's some inconceivable situations. But I was asked to stay in Bombay during this time because Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, and Srinathji Prabhu insisted that I stay. And it was just shortly after that. At the beginning, we were just at Seaface Park. And there was really nothing. And then we have one little tiny room in the downstairs of the building in Chopati, the Lady Northcote Hindu Orphanage. So we had no place to gather. All of our programs would be at people's homes. But, people's homes are small. So every night till late at night, we were just, preaching at people's homes. And every night, without fail, whatever the event was, Prabhu was always there. Bringing people, cultivating people. And the event at his home and car really was the main center. It was our main temple. It was the largest event in that little garage. And I remember in those days, I would come every Friday. And it began just filling up the little garage, and gradually people started spilling out into the driveway and then into the parking lot. And as it grew bigger, because I'm a very little person in every way, people couldn't hear me. So they got a microphone and a sound system for me. And I would speak in the microphone. And Mahaprabhu he just cared so deeply for everyone. Most of the people who were coming were English-speaking people. But some of the elder people, like the parents, they didn't speak English. And Mahaprabhu wanted to make sure that every single person was given every benefit of the event that he was hosting. Not a word was ever spoken at the Karod Center that it was not translated into Hindi by Mahaprabhu. At the beginning stages, he would invite whoever would come, and otherwise he would give the lectures. But in one sense, as Giriraj Swami Maharaj explained, Mahaprabhu's translations, there was a certain acknowledged editorial leniency that every speaker gave him. Sometimes I would say something very serious, and after the translation, everyone would laugh. Sometimes I would say something very funny, and after the translation, everyone looked very concerned. So he would translate everything perfectly, but he would also embellish with his own wonderful concern for what everyone needed to hear. That was his reason. When he would ask questions, I believe it was Satchidananda Prabhu, he brought out, every question he would ask was on behalf of someone. Because Mahaprabhu cared so much about the people he was preaching to, directly or indirectly, he could feel what they were going through. And out of his compassion, he would ask just the questions that would address what was in individual people's hearts. And I'm just remembering so many times I had a microphone and a sound system. And as I was giving the talk, quite often people would say, we can't hear, could you make it louder? Mahaprabhu's translation never had any sound system, and nobody ever asked him to repeat it. His voice was louder than a sound system. Sometimes I remember, he would be translating in such a powerful way that there's, not far, there's the Car Road railway station, and just behind and over the garage was a bridge where people would go to get the train. And sometimes I would see crowds of people on the bridge in rapt attention, hearing him giving his Hindi translations. It wasn't just the power of his vocal cords. That was there. It was the volume of his enthusiasm to share the message of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sri Radha Gopinath with the world. In those early days at the Car Road, we always began it with Harinam Sankirtan. We'd begin from his house and we would chant and we would dance to the Car Road station, and we'd stay there. And every few minutes during the kirtan, we would stop it, and Mahaprabhu would give a lecture to all the crowds. And sometimes there'd be like a dozen lectures. And by the time we got back to the Car Road station, it was sometimes quite late. I mean, to the center, to Radha Vrindavan Nattabhara's temple. But everyone stayed, and there'd be lecture, there'd be kirtan and dancing, and then wonderful prasad. And whatever I speak about Mahaprabhu, I can't separate my appreciation and gratitude to Palika Devi, who was so much, foundational to his enthusiasm and his determination. The two of them together are living within the hearts of all of us. And practically everybody I see at Radha Gopinath Temple, I see the influence of Palika and Mahaprabhu Prabhu in their hearts, in their lives, and in their faith. For that, I am forever grateful. Mahaprabhu is very loud, very bold. Along with Srinathji Prabhu, they would be anxious for fights. I remember Srinathji Prabhu and Mahaprabhu would come to me in my room and whenever there was some crisis that had to be dealt with, and they would say, Srinathji would always say, I am always eager for a good fight. And Mahaprabhu is on my right, he is my right hand. And Mahaprabhu and Srinathji Prabhu, as was said, there was, I believe, 22 serious court cases at the beginning of Radha Gopinath Temple trying to shut us down. And they fought them all, and they were enthusiastic, and they were enlivened. And my relationship with Mahaprabhu Prabhu was extremely sweet, extremely loving, and very variegated. Because we are very different personalities. I really don't like good fights. I just like to preach and spread peace. I'm not a warrior in that way, and he very much is, and he's very bold. And actually, my nature, I'm very shy. When I used to go to school, every teacher would complain to my parents that your child is so shy, he never talks. And when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was just in Vrindavan, just living with Brijabasis, just hearing. And then later at New Vrindavan, I was just on a mountain taking care of cows and doing deity worship. And somehow or other, I was pushed out into the world to preach. And I was very enthusiastic to preach. I'm always enthusiastic to preach because I want to serve my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, as the servant of the servant. But my nature, I'm not a bold person. And Mahaprabhu is so bold, and he's so courageous, and he's so assertive. And at a certain point, he's serving under me. He's 15 years older than me. And quite often, devotees would complain to me about Mahaprabhu Prabhu, that, they would say he's burning people out because he's so strong and he's so forceful. And I would just smile because I knew that the fire of his devotion was so pure and filled with such compassion that either he's going to burn away, he's going to burn into your heart and melt it totally, like he did to most. But even if he burned somebody out, I knew it would certainly purify that person. But my relationship with Mahaprabhu was very sweet and very special, because sometimes it was required that I had to be very assertive in my private meetings with him. and I would have to chastise him. And I could say, and I'm repeating what so many said, Mahaprabhu, in his enthusiasm, in his determination, in his great care, he was bold, and he was sometimes very assertive and apparently aggressive. But he always had such a humble heart. There was never an argument. Anything I pointed out to him, sometimes he would cry. Oh, I hurt this person. I didn't mean to do that. And I would cry. We would cry together because I understood him so deeply, and he understood that I understood, and it was just very sweet. Mahaprabhu had such a soft, loving, fatherly, brotherly heart. He cared so deeply for everyone. And, he expressed it in various ways. To be a father to hundreds of our devotees. On behalf of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and on behalf of our entire Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Parampara, I'm offering sincere gratitude to Mahaprabhu Prabhu for his incredible life of dedication, faith, and devotion. Such a preacher, he would take every possible opportunity to preach. And if there was absolutely no opportunity, Mahaprabhu would make the opportunity to preach. To the core of his heart, he was a preacher. And I can imagine how difficult that must have been for his family. Yeah, just such a powerful person, and I believe, he expected his family also to live up to the standards that he believed so strongly. But because he has such love for every member of his family, his brothers, his sisters, his children, his wife, his everyone. We see how today there's such a beautiful recognition that they had of his unmotivated, uninterrupted, pure spiritual love for them. Mahaprabhu was simply always there for everyone. And more than ever before, I believe he's there for each and every one of us today. And whenever we remember his example, whenever we appreciate the wonderful gifts of his compassion, he's with us. With all of his courage, with all of his brilliance, with all of his compassion, Mahaprabhu is living in our hearts. His departure from this world was just like Shri Radha Gopinath, bringing him deeper into the core of our hearts. Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, so unique. He brought hundreds of people to the lotus feet of Radha Gopinath. And as was explained earlier, he brought Radha Gopinath to hundreds and to tens and thousands of people's hearts. It's Radharani and Gopinath Ji's Leela that, how they appeared in Chopati, Mumbai. At that time, I was residing at the beginning just on the floors of different devotees' homes, Srinathji Prabhu's homes, because there was just inconceivable challenges going on. And later on in that little rat-infested room in Radha Gopinath temple, and we couldn't even have a morning program because it was just such a tiny thing, and just little brahmacharis, a few of us would clap our hands and have Mangalarti. And then we decided, let's go upstairs. It was Tinkerbell High School. The hall was divided into 4 sections for 4 different classrooms. And early morning before the classes, at one end, it was the Bombay Center for Iyengar Yoga. And we would go up there before the classes while the yogis would be standing on their heads and doing asanas. We would have our morning program at the other end. And I would, after a couple of years, I came back to America just for about a month. And while I was away, it was Janmashtami. And when I came back, I went into the hall and I saw the deities on the altar. They made a little makeshift altar. And I went, how did they come? And it was explained to me that it was Janmashtami and they wanted to invite people to come for Janmashtami, and they needed deities, and Mahaprabhu went to Jaipur and somehow or other he practically kidnapped the deities. Krishna Chandra Prabhu explained they were meant to go somewhere else. They were bought by another temple, but Mahaprabhu just paid a little extra Lakshmi to the Murtiwala, the deity maker, and convinced him, give us these deities, and just brought them. And when I returned, it was just so beautiful. We named them and installed them. So it was Mahaprabhu's assertive, enthusiastic, courageous nature that attracted Radha Gopinath to come, to attract all of our hearts. What can I say? I am just forever indebted to both Srinathji Prabhu and Mahaprabhu Prabhu. Foundational pillars to all the projects that have developed. And I pray that all of our devotees will keep this beautiful fire alive in our hearts of appreciation and gratitude for the compassion of Mahaprabhu. It was spoken about, how he was getting older and how things changed. And I would just like to conclude with an analogy that at the beginning times of Radha Gopinath temple, and the car center. Mahaprabhu was bringing people to Krishna consciousness. And the way he did it was so miraculous and dynamic. How he brought Sahadev Prabhu and Radha Krishna Prabhu and Palika Devi, and how he brought Satchidananda, and how he cultivated all the doctors who would later establish Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and how he helped to preach to Krishna Chandra Prabhu. It was just unbelievable and incredible, so much under the inspiration of His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. And I remember he would love to arrange programs for me to come, and he would always point out, and I remember he pointed out, this person right here, he's really important, you should preach to him. And that person later became His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj. That time he had longer hair, and he was he was a student or something. That was Mahaprabhu Prabhu. He would always just be cultivating people's hearts. But later on, what happened is these people that he made devotees, and these people who were being attracted to Radha Gopinath temple, as the years came, they became empowered preachers and empowered leaders and empowered managers. And Mahaprabhu Prabhu was no longer like the one, along with Srinathji Prabhu. There were just so many others. And the legal cases were not so much anymore. And I was thinking that during the Battle of Sri Lanka, Hanuman exerted all of his incredible propensities of carrying mountains and fighting with his clubs. And later when Ram was coronated as the king of Ayodhya, then Hanuman didn't have to fight anymore. Somehow or other, he had to keep busy, though. And sometimes Mahaprabhu Prabhu reminded me of Hanuman in Ayodhya, in the sense that he didn't have all the battles and fighting, even though he loved to do that. In which case, he naturally took the role of a father for our entire community. And he will remain a father for our community forever. Let us take a moment to join our hearts as one in our love, in our respect, in our gratitude to Mahaprabhu Prabhu. And our deepest condolences to all of his family. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It was so beautiful to hear all the devotees. And yet when Maharaj speaks, it becomes even so more embellished with sweetness, because it's all-inclusive nature of summarizing all that we have said, and yet adding his own personal flavor of his own love and gratitude which he has for all the devotees, always, and even so more so from Mahaprabhu that we have expressed. Maharaj, we are truly blessed to hear you, and even more deeply appreciate Mahaprabhu's contribution to our beautiful temple here. I would like to know, Maharaj, if you would like to lead the prayer for the departed souls yourself, or should we ask some devotees who are sitting here to lead it for Mahaprabhu? What would be your desire?
I think it would be very sweet if Rohini Nandan Prabhu would lead. He was always one of Prabhu's favorite kirtan singers.
Yeah. So, as Ravindra was getting ready to sing this beautiful song, I'd like to inform the devotees who are out there that there will be many of you who would like to express your hearts, as many already have done through letters. But if you are one of those who would like to express, please feel free to connect to Giriraj Govardhan and send your offerings by mail or by WhatsApp, because the family plans to come out with a beautiful coffee table book, which will inclusively contain the love and letters and pictures and memories of certain parts of Mahaprabhu's life. So that will be included in that wonderful book. So kindly do that in relationship to Giriraj Govardhan. Please connect to him. So we now fold our hands and keep our hearts to receive these prayers of separation from the departed Vaishnavas. So as we are doing singing the song, we can come one by one and offer our Pushpanjali to Mahaprabhu Prabhu.
Anilo Premandhana Karuna Ena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Ena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kaha mora sarup rupa kaha sanatan Kadas Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kaha mora bhata yuga kaha kabira एक काले कोटा गेला गौरनाथरा पासने कोटिवो माता आनाले पसिबो गौरंगा गुनेरा निधि कोठा गेले पावो से सब संगीरा संगे जे कोई लो बिला से संगा न पाया कन्ने नरोत्तम दास हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Jaya Radha Vrindavan Natwar Radha Vrindavan Natwar Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jayo Jaya